Diddy's Conquest is even more beloved than the original Donkey Kong Country. It was inevitable I'd attempt to finish this game without defeating enemies as well, so here we are. But before we get started, I'd like to go over a few points. Enemies that get themselves killed, for example, walking off a platform and falling down a hole, will not count. Bosses will not count as they are unavoidable, and shortcuts or glitches will only be used as a last resort. Alright, let's get started with Pirate Panic. And introducing DixieCon, who is sure to be the Pacifist MVP with her Hair Twirl float. A nice and easy way to start off. The rats and kremlins are spaced decently, giving you ample room to jump through. I should point out clobbers, the kremlins that wear barrels, don't die when you leap on their heads. They simply get stunned and hide back inside their barrel, then come back out a few seconds later. You can kill them by picking up their barrel and throwing it into a wall. So don't do that, okay? Not a lot else to say. Avoid riding Ramby and the end should soon be in sight. On to Main Base Mayhem. It's mostly filled with rats and beetles that are easy to spare, but there's one challenging section to watch out for. A bunch of rats spawn very closely together, just begging for you to roll into them. It may appear that you can't jump over them even with Dixie's Hair Twirl, but the trick is to take your time and allow the rats to spawn at different times by approaching slowly. Then it's just a matter of twirling between them and onwards. Also, you're going to have to learn to ignore bananas. If you follow them here, you'll drop onto a poor Kremlin's head. You shall not drive me down a dark path of violence, foul potassium mistresses of the yellow. Onto Gangplank Galley. Oh no, it's the leaping kremlins I hated so much from the first game. Either damage boost to get past or carefully wait for them to land, then jump over them. If you have enough height over them, Dixie can twirl past with few issues. I told you she'd be useful for this, but then again, I'm just preaching to the choir here. Everyone knows she's awesome. There's an invincibility barrel here which will make you kill any enemies by touch for a short time after. So again, just don't do it. I would have avoided it completely, but some habits die hard, others are immortal. Lockjaw's Locker is the first water stage of the game. Unlike in the first game, the water levels here have a few regular sections, but these are sparse, so the same strategy applies still. Avoid using Enguard, evade the enemies like normal, and you'll be fine. Topsail Trouble is the first level with Ratley, and although you don't need him to beat it, this will be good practice for later levels where using him is required. Learn the timing of his jumps, get used to his super jump, and be careful not to kill enemies with it. The hitbox underneath him is deceptively big, which is normally a fun thing, but a pain for pacifists. The second half mostly involves climbing ropes filled with enemies you can't really kill anyway, so not really anything to say about that. Play like normal and the final level of World 1 is done. Now defeat Crow and move on to the second world. Hothead Hop is next. Be careful the clobbers don't knock you into other enemies and get them killed. This is the first time you encounter the big claptraps, whatever they're called. They're so large it's difficult not to land on them, but it's manageable. This is also the introduction of Squitters, who's great for this challenge, but I find him a pain to use. You have to hold the run button at all times or you may shoot out a web and kill something. But if you're willing to use them, his web platforms will allow you to pass anything without bloodying up your hands. Not that you need them for this particular stage. Cannon's Claim is the most difficult stage so far. It has a lot of tight jumps that require precision if you don't want to be a murderer. These two kremlins leave little room for you to land. The cannons are pretty annoying too. Like most enemies, their hurt boxes are deceptively large and they're fatties to begin with. Some hair twirling action may be required to get past them. And if that doesn't work, good old damage boosting can work as well. Near the end, there's a part where you need to time your jump perfectly to avoid the cannon. It may take a few attempts to reach the barrel, but it's doable and that's all that matters in the end. Lava Lagoon is another water level, but this one is a little bit more tricky than the others. Claptraps tend to hang around Clapper. Be careful you don't land on one after jumping on the seal. The worst part comes courtesy from this asshole leaping Kremlin. Get past him when he jumps as high as possible, but hurry or the water will warm up again and hurt you. You don't have to worry about killing this beetle unless you hit him twice, and that's all I have to say about that stage. The infamous Red Hot Ride certainly lives up to its reputation for this challenge. You're required to stay on these balloons to clear the lava pools. That wouldn't be a problem if some of them weren't occupied by enemies. This one can be ignored, you can just stay on the balloon you're on already, but then a balloon with a rat on it is right in the way of the steam. You can barely get under him and gain enough height to continue. But there's a rat on my balloon, what am I gonna do? There's a rat on my balloon. Thankfully, Dixie can just about twirl to another one further along the way. Angle it perfectly or you'll kill the dragonfly. The very next task is just as difficult. There's another rat on the falling balloon that gets right in the way. I thought this was impossible for a while, but then I tried staying on the first balloon and going as fast as possible. Phew, and after that, reaching the end was no problem. Squawks' shaft genuinely isn't too bad, but it contains the most tricky bits so far. You're minding your own business, twirling your way up to victory, and then it hits you. Teeny tiny platforms with the dastardly big claptraps on them. Your landing needs to be spot on to avoid killing them, and you have to do it twice. The second half has you riding squawks while evading enemies and their attacks. Being unable to remove the enemies will increase the challenge, but it's nothing unbearable. And with that, World 2 is over. Just defeat the boss like normal and move on. Barrel Bayo begins World 3 and it won't pose many problems. None of the enemies here really get in your way. The only possible challenge would be leaping over the groups of 3 rats. But it's nothing Dixie can't deal with. Overall, easy peasy. Another future feature of Leave My Eyes Alone, Glimmer's Galleon, is a more classic water stage. Most of it is underwater, so you don't have to worry about harming enemies at all. The only enemy you can defeat is the porcupine at the end, who can be avoided fine. This world has been a cinch so far, but Croc Head Clamber will certainly change that. Lots of dragonflies expect you to jump on them to progress, and more annoying leaping gremlins, yay! Well, it's possible to get past even with Diddy, and his extra speed seems a better fit for the situation. But you're expected to leap on 3 dragonflies here to continue, and you can't switch to Dixie when climbing. So you have no choice but to play as her here. And there's a tricky jump after that which also requires her twirling to clear without killing the dragonfly. This level will really make you appreciate Dixie more than any other so far, but even she can't get past this circling dragonfly. Damage boosting is required. Diddy would obviously make a better sacrifice for this task, but there's a DK barrel straight after anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's only one part left where she's required, and then the level's pretty much over. Oh, that was a rough level for sure, but things are about to get even more difficult with the next stage. Okay, here we go. It's Rattle Battle. This is the first level you're transformed into an animal buddy, which isn't good because they're all killing machines. At least Ratley can jump super high and get past enemies, but there's only so much he can achieve. And of course, of all the levels they had to appear in, leaping gremlins are featured heavily here. You can only just get past these 3 gremlins with a super jump, and you have to make sure the one on the end is as low as possible when you land. That is the second most difficult section of the stage, I'm afraid to say. You know, that's a very nice looking background, isn't it? Very limey looking, yummy. You eventually get to a cannon shooting barrels at you. Bounce off them to get by him safely. But soon after, there's one who shoots cannonballs instead, which you can't jump off. This is the hardest part of the level. You're expected to jump off the zinger to get past, and you can't super jump past or you'll land on the cannon on the other side. This was almost impossible, but there's one way to do it. See, Ratley does these little hops with his walking animation, but he can jump out of it at any time. Timed right, and it can basically function as a second jump. His walking animation also gets reset if he takes a hit. Combine the two, and that was a real close one. Barely made it through that, but we did. Thankfully, there's nothing else nearly as difficult as that. Although, I'd hate to mess up, have to return to the checkpoint and do that dreaded part again, so be careful and you can soon put it behind you for good. Slime Climb is next, a level where you must stay above the water or you'll get bit by a mean fishy. Kremlins occupy small platforms. Keep your landings as far away from them as possible as they move about. Need I say that Dixie will have an easier time here? Diddy can still do it though. You can use the water to evade enemies if need be, but only if there's no other choice. This is where it becomes necessary. Dixie can't clear these dragonflies without having to dip in the water. Once again, probably better to damage boost with Diddy taking the blow, but you can probably do it without getting hurt. Ugh, these dragonflies have such a death wish, but Diddy can still jump far enough to clear them. And there's more of them right at the end. Well, only one thing to do. That was intense. Now let's calm down with Bramble Blast. Most of this stage is spent blasting through barrels which only have zingers around them, so it's mostly unchanged. But near the end, more pesky dragonflies beg for death. You have to miss this one and take a hit, but don't jump into the barrel during Mercy invincibility. Instead, jump into the hole to enter another barrel that takes you to Squawks. Now just fly right until you find a bonus barrel. Once you've either completed the bonus stage or failed it, you'll be taken straight to the end. That's the end of World 3. Some close calls, but still no defeated enemies, other than the bosses. World 4 begins with Hornet's Hole, and there isn't really anything that's going to challenge you here after everything you've been through. Dixie is as useful as ever, just 12 through the groups of porcupines and other foes. Don't really know what else to say here. I never thought about it before, but this is such a pretty level, isn't it? The amount of detail on display is simply astounding. Target Terror. Uh-oh, this is basically a minecart level, isn't it? I have a bad feeling about this. You need to touch the barrels with ticks on them to open gates, or you'll crash into them and take a hit. Unfortunately, the only way to reach some is to jump on dragonflies. You can choose to take a hit from the gates instead, but there's no decay barrel between the first and the second of these. You can avoid hitting the two dragonflies here by damage boosting into the barrel, but if you used a hit already, then crap. There's no other option. You have to kill the first dragonfly to save the other two. Damn it! This is the first level where an enemy has to die. And you have to damage boost to reach the barrel rather than take a hit from the gates because, well, see for yourself. What in the name of Miyamoto happened there? Straight after that is another dragonfly you're expected to jump on. With perfect timing, you can reach the next cart without touching him. Later on, there's more dragonflies in the way. The good news is, if you're going fast enough, you can get by with killing just one, but I'd rather it were none. Well, they finally freaking did it. The dragonflies backed me to a corner where I had to kill two of them. Listen, you may have won this battle, but I will win the war of not killing you. My instincts were correct. Another minecart level turns me into a killer. Bramble Scramble is quite an ordeal itself. If you only have Diddy, he can't clear a jump at the very start without killing a Kremlin. Better leave the stage and go get Dixie to save the day, as usual. Most of the level is spent riding Squawks, whose ability to fly will work great for pacifists. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There are a lot of parts that will be awkward to squeeze past safely without taking a hit. You may have to be patient in some spots and wait for an enemy to move and then advance. Thankfully, there's only one part of the level that requires damage boosting. Just before the checkpoint, you'll lose Squawks for a little while. Make sure to keep both cons around until you have to ride him again. There are two zingers right in the way. It might be possible to just barely squeeze past them safely, but I don't really want to bother trying. The rest of the level is pretty much the same, more awkwardly placed enemies and such. You want to hold on to both hits for as long as possible and don't take any risks. The end with those ghost things throwing crates at you would be extremely difficult to clear without an extra hit. Rickety Race is another minecart level, uh-oh. But don't worry, this is meant to be a race, so all you have to do is stay behind the pack and no one has to die. They'll laugh at me for placing dead last at the award ceremony, but they'll thank me for sparing their lives one day. Mudhole Marsh, another swamp level and yet another chance for Dixie to shine. What is it with this series and always having the main character get outshined by the sidekicks? A lot of swooping neckies here, whatever they're called. Wait and dodge them and they won't get in your way. The dragonflies are still begging for you to slay them. What is their problem? Don't they understand I mean them no harm? Oh no, not the cannons and their big fat hurt boxes again. Once again, the Diddy damage boosting to Dixie hair twirl combo will save the day, but there's only so many times you can do it and you can't get Diddy back before the end. Dixie can't hair twirl when she leaps off a barrel, so there's no way to avoid killing this dragonfly. I guess I'm going to prison for this, and that's now 3 dead enemies. Fudge! Ramby Rumble? Oh no, I don't know what word in that name frightens me more. As expected, the level's fine until you're transformed into Ramby. Ramby has very little in ways of passing enemies without killing them. Immediately there's a zinger right in the way and Ramby attacks automatically when he gets near an enemy. And then you have to kill another to clear a hole. There's a cannon after this, that's all I need, but Ramby can jump over them with his charged attack. Jumping off the barrels he fires is another option. The second one requires the charge attack because he fires the cannonballs instead of barrels. Carefully hold right after you clear him to avoid falling down a pit. 2 more zingers that need to die. I never thought I'd be so upset to kill so many wasps. And here's another set of zingers you need to kill and jump off. You can spare 2 of them by charging like this, but still I wish I could save them all. You have to take a hit to let King Zinger get out of your way and give yourself time to charge your charge. Oh look, that Zinger needs to die as well. And finally, at least 2 more need to be killed here. 8 dead Zingers, Nope, sorry, I can't joke about this. And as if to mock me, King Zinger himself turns into a swarm of Zingers for the second half of his battle. Should they count towards the total as well? Nah. I see all of them as King Zinger himself, and bosses already don't count as I've said. Let's hope World 5 is kinder than 4 was. Ghostly Grove is mostly on the easy side. Plenty of space for Dixie to do her thing. The ghost ropes allow her to gain height and get more out of her twirling. But watch out for the newly introduced enemy, the TNT Clobber. These nasty gits will explode if they ram into you and kill themselves as well. Keep as far away from them as possible. Alternatively, whack them on the head to stun them, then run far, far away. Other than them, nothing too noteworthy here at all. Haunted Hall. Another minecart stage, but all you have to do here is grab the plus barrels and keep the ghost from hurting you. There are no other enemies here, and you can't kill the ghost either, so there's nothing to go over. So yeah, moving on. Gusty Glade is a massive pain, but not for the reasons you'd expect. You think sections where the wind gets strong would be the hardest here, but it's actually this bit with the rats on these narrow platforms that will generate the most stress. You must land on the edges of the platforms opposite from the rats. Your timing must be near perfect. Good thing the wind doesn't pop up here, or that would screw you over, or actually help out. It certainly doesn't help when it's blown against you, such as here. Definitely not when there's a big fat cannon in your way. Damage boosting through them is the safest option, and there's a DK barrel after this one. It is possible to hair twirl past them, but it's very risky. Definitely the hardest level of the world so far. Will it hold on to the crown until the end? Parachute Panic is mostly unchanged. Most of it is spent riding the purple squawks as you descend into a hive. You get off the squawks every so often, and those are the parts with enemies to avoid, such as claptraps. These 2 are the hardest to evade because there's 2 of them and the low ceiling prevents you from making the most of your jumps. After the next squawks ride ends, be careful not to land on the claptrap underneath your landing spot. And after that there's a very narrow tunnel blocked by 3 beetles. Good thing these guys have to take up to 2 hits to die. Not a particularly challenging level, no siree. Oh no, Web Woods, my least favourite level in the game. Alright, let's just get it over with. Carefully march through the rats here, just like old times. Watch out for the TNT Clobber, either jump over or on him and run on ahead. And after that you turn into Squitter or Squitters, I don't know. Ugh, here we go. This level is dull at the best of times, but now you have to build web platforms constantly to get around the foes. There are some tricky sections here and there, but I find it more tedious than fun. And as said before, you have to hold the run button constantly or you may shoot a web and kill something. As tempting as it may be to damage boost through some points to cut down on the tedium, it's best not to. Also, for some reason, you can jump above the screen at some points, but not at others. Take advantage of it when you can. The worst part is here with the cannons. There's one right at the very top of the screen blocking the way, and you can't jump over him here. This is why you need to keep both of your hits. Build web platforms like this and take a hit to get past him. It's really quite irritating to do, considering that the web platforms don't stick around forever. The most unfun level becomes even more annoying. Oh, and off topic, you've got to hate how the DK coin needs to be collected at the end. Time it wrong and you have to do the whole level again to get it. Yay! Oh no, that's right. You need to defeat at least 3 vultures during the creepy crow fight to win. Should I count them or not because they're part of a boss battle? I'd rather not, obviously. Well, I guess I already proved you can't finish the game without killing any enemies. Might as well add 3 more to the total. The end is drawing closer. Arctic Abyss is another water stage, but with a difference. Here, you're transformed into Engard, which means you have to worry about harming enemies for a change. Like Rambi, he automatically attacks enemies if they get in front of him. But he can face the opposite direction, take a hit and get past without killing the foe. Obviously, being underwater gives him far more room to move around and spare enemies than Rambi. Still, be careful, try to keep Engard's face as far away from the enemies as possible. The starfish goes straight for you, but can't change direction once they start. Try to lure them away without getting cornered. Same strategy applies to the bitey fish, but they attack very fast. You'll need to react quick or take a hit. In this part, the fish almost completely blocks the way. It might be possible to get past him, but I'll just go over him instead of dealing with that hassle. The most difficult section comes at the end where 3 bities block the way. Well, it was odd to cover a water level in more detail for once. Windy Well. There aren't many chances to harm the enemies here at all. You spend most of the stage at the wind's mercy as it sends you upwards. You rarely have the ability to attack. The few times you can kill an enemy, you pretty much have to go out of your way to do so. So don't give in to temptation, which I'm sure you won't if you've already made it this far. Easy peasy, but Castle Crush won't be so kind. Enemies will join you on this raising platform and force you to evade all of them repeatedly. The good news is, they will eventually get crushed and leave you alone. It's a bit hypocritical when I think about it. I'm so desperate not to kill anything, but I'm so relieved when they get themselves killed and stop pestering me, especially when they're claptraps and fill up most of the platform. I don't think I really need to say it anymore, do I? But I will anyway. Dixie is pretty much required here. But watch out for this section where a claptrap gets right where you don't want him as the platform nearly crushes you. The only option is to let Diddy get crushed, which lowers the platform temporarily, then damage boost through with Dixie. You must keep Dixie because there's no way Diddy's getting past these 4 porcupines. This is like synchronized dying right here. It's quite a spectacle and I'm honoured to have witnessed it. There's one part with 3 porcupines and a low ceiling. Diddy must once again take a bullet for Dixie. Because near the end, there's an extremely tight jump with 2 claptraps and a porcupine. Even Dixie can barely get over it, but she can, and that's all that matters. Clapper's Cavern. Not really a whole lot to say about this one. Evading some of the enemies may slow you down, but it won't be anything significant. Also, I don't know why I started riding Engard here and made my life harder. So yeah, I don't know what to say here. Watch out for this barrel, you might accidentally pick it up and kill someone getting rid of it. Let go of the run button when you're near it. You can afford to lose a little time before the ice melts. Chain Link Chamber. Like Windy Well, there aren't many sections where you can harm enemies to begin with. It's probably best to play as Diddy here for his superior climbing speed, but I'm too used to Dixie to switch. So no, nothing really changes here. Might as well move on to the next level. Toxic Tower forces you to transform into a number of animal buddies. Uh-oh. And you've also got to keep your speed up to stay ahead of the rising poison. Ratley can avoid killing zingers here by super jumping up to the left, but sadly there's nothing you can do in the next bit to skip the zingers. You need to bounce off a few of them. You have to kill at least 2, avoiding 1 using a super jump. I even tried using a damage boost jump to attempt to spare 1, but I don't think it's possible. The bad news doesn't end there, I'm afraid. You need to kill at least 1 more zinger here to continue. Damage boosting might make it possible, but you can't jump straight away after taking a hit. You probably can't reach that ledge. And after that, there's yet more zingers that have to die. Oh Ratley, why can't you just learn to jump even higher or fly or something? With a super jump, you can cut down the kills from 5 to 4 instead. At least you switch to squawks next, but even a flyer may struggle here. Jumping gremlins haven't been a pest lately, and oh look, they return in one of the worst levels yet. Some people always show up in the worst times, don't they? But the kings of death, zingers, force you to claim yet more of their kind. One zinger, then two, and then three block the way. There's no way you can save all of them, but what's the best way to minimize kills? You can only damage boost once, you need to make it really count. Kill the first one, then take a hit from the group of two, then move as fast as you possibly can. Your timing needs to be absolutely perfect, and even watching this footage back, I don't quite understand how I made it. Next you'll turn into squitters, but thankfully this section is very short and barely has any enemies. Well, the zingers got me to kill another 8 of them. I hope they're proud of themselves because the feeling ain't mutual. Screech's Sprint, the last regular stage in the game. I thought I was in trouble at first because this ghost was blocking the way, but then I moved to the left and he disappeared. I'll take it. Nothing really of note up until you're transformed into Squawks and have to race Screech. And even then, there's only one part that will cause problems. You'll eventually come across 2 lines of, surprise surprise, zingers, which you'll have to damage boost through. But there's another soon after, and you won't have a spare hit to survive. Fly up here to find the decay barrel and then you can get past it. But don't wait about or Screech will reach the end before you and you'll lose a life. Nothing that bad though. And finally, defeat K-Rool himself. Though even if you count bosses, I'm not sure if you should get a tattoo of his grave on your arm. Because as we know, when you defeat the Croc, it's actually Donkey Kong who delivers the epic final blow. And here I go again, showing this awesome scene some more. Well, I guess we can't overlook the secret world. Jungle Jinx is up first. There isn't really anything to say about it. The main gimmick are the massive tyres you bounce on to get over hazards, which leaves little room for tough enemy placement. The only part that's cause for concern is where the 3 clat traps move together, but Dixie can clear it easily. Black Ice Battle. Watch out the ice physics don't cause you to slide into foes and kill them by mistake. Be wary of the clubber, who will follow you for as long as he can and knock you around in unfortunate ways. Bash him on the head to stun him. Although it's technically fine according to the rules, I never feel good about doing it. Drop slowly here and make sure there's nothing below. Oh come on, how was I supposed to react to that? Stick as far to the right as you can to avoid the dragonflies, you should miss them. Jump over these clat traps carefully and the end should soon be in sight. Clobber Carnage. As the name suggests, the only enemies here are clobbers, and as already said, they're harder to kill on purpose than most enemies are. The only ones that worry me, as always, are the TNT clobbers, but they're not hard to evade at all in the grand scheme of things. Maybe if you want to add an extra layer of challenge, you could try finishing it without even stunning any of them. But I don't know what else to say. Let's move on. Fiery Furnace. Is this level based in my house? It's so bloody hot right now. Oops, sorry for being topical. These clat traps are a pain to get past, but damage boosting is an option. Thank goodness we're nearly done. I hate saying damage boosting. More dragonflies expect you to leap off them to progress. Dixie can clear this one easy enough. Move fast as soon as you're in the barrel to reach the next without killing another one. Take a hit against the zinger to leap out of the barrel and get to the next one. And then... nope. This part is impossible. I cannot think of any conceivable way of not killing one of them here. I guess I'll just have to make do with killing one. Well, spoiler alert, that's the last dragonfly that needs to die. There's one more you need to shoot over here and that's it. Despite their best efforts, their species is still going strong, so ha, I win. This is it, the final level, Animal Antic. You're turned into Rambi right at the start. Uh-oh. Don't rush ahead, wait for these rats to move into a pit and get out of your way. Rambi will have huge difficulty getting past the jumping gremlins next. Why is he so violent? And after them is a zinger you can't avoid, Well, actually, you can avoid him with a carefully timed charge and a jump. But even if you do, you'll land on another one behind him. The cannon in the next section is a nuisance as well. You can just about clear him, but you'll need to take a hit to be able to charge your charge for long enough. Next, you're turned into Engard. The very first enemy he meets is the worst, the manta ray in this narrow path. Stay as high as you can to avoid killing him. These starfish are pretty annoying as well. Be patient to get them out of the way or rush through like an idiot like I did here. It's pretty similar to the other level you're turned into Engard. Hurry on through and you'll be turned into Squatter next. It's not on Webb Woods' level, but still pretty damn stressful. Your worst enemy here is the screen, which seems to only progress when you move to certain parts of the level. How could a spider be so little fun to use? I guess it is my fault in the end for playing a game in a way that was never intended in the first place. Hang in there, you'll be transformed into squawks eventually, although this is the hardest part of the level normally. The dragonflies tried one final attempt to get themselves killed, but fortunately there's a DK bell straight after, so you can squeeze through these zingers, but I'd rather just take the hit. And finally, Ratley, who doesn't really have anything to worry about. The only enemy in this section that can die is a claptrap. Everything else is a red immortal zinger. Oh sure, bring them out now at the very end when my hands already have bee blood all over them. Thanks a lot. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.